Hi, how are you? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Tabby and I make book videos here on YouTube. If you're into book videos, maybe you should think about subscribing. I don't know about you, but it feels like everyone and their mum is talking about the Odyssey at the moment. It's not quite Barbenheimer, but it does feel like a bit of a cultural moment. So I thought if you're going to see the Odyssey soon, or you've seen it recently and you just want to stay in the Odyssey mood, that I could recommend some ancient Greece related books to get you or keep you in that vibe. I've cast quite a broad net here with ancient Greece related. Not all of these books are even set in ancient Greece, but I do think that they have that flavour and they're all genuinely good books. So let's get into it. So this first book isn't set in ancient Greece, it's set in ancient Sicily in Syracuse. I forgot to tell you what this book's called and who it's by. It's called Glorious Exploits and it's by Ferdia Lennon. Before the start of the events of the book, Athens has tried to invade Sicily. I think that they thought it would be a walk in the park and the invasion was a complete catastrophe and it resulted in loads of Athenians being captured in Syracuse. They didn't really have prisons big enough to keep all of those people, so they put them in the marble quarries. There are these two unemployed potters, Lampo and Gelon. They basically keep going to visit the prisoners and offer them food in exchange for the prisoners reciting lines from Euripides. Oh my god, there's policemen chasing people in my road. Gelon is a massive fan of Athenian culture and all of the plays, so he sees all these Athenians as a massive source of information and entertainment, so he keeps wanting to talk to them because he's really interested. Lampo is, if he was living in present day society, he probably would have been diagnosed with quite a few different things. I'm not sure that he's completely typical. He's basically kind of going along for the vibes. They both have this complete lack of sensitivity and lack of empathy to how the Athenians are feeling. Going up to all of these absolutely starving, thirsty people saying, will you recite some Euripides? And they're like, please can I have some water? And they say, fine, if you recite Euripides. Oh my god, they're actually all on my road. Okay, I actually think it's just teenagers being a little bit naughty rather than anyone doing anything really evil. And I hope the police are nice to them. The prisoners soon learn that the ones who know the most about Euripides and plays are the ones that have the best life because they're getting fed, they're getting basically taken care of by these two unemployed potters, because the potters are like, yeah, I'll give you a handful of food, here's some Euripides, hell yeah. Basically an idea is born, and the premise is you can hate the invaders but still love the poetry, and these two potters end up commissioning, which is a generous word because it's not really like the prisoners had much choice, but commissioning all these prisoners to put on a play. And it is so funny and such an interesting take on the war, in that obviously they weren't happy about being invaded, but they were also really happy to see all these Athenians that they could learn from. And it has such a dark, wry, cutting humour. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's a debut novel as well, which is crazy. Next up, we have who, in my view, is the GOAT of ancient Greek myth retellings, and that is Madeline Miller. The Song of Achilles is the story of Patroclus and Achilles, and Patroclus is a young prince who was exiled to where Achilles grew up, and they became childhood friends, and it follows them from their childhood all the way through to the Trojan Wars, which is told from Patroclus's perspective. And this is one of the most beautifully told, gorgeous, emotional love stories, and I just think everyone should read it. 5-star from me. And then Circe is another Madeline Miller book, and people say that this is like with Donna Tartt's A Secret History and The Goldfinch, where whichever one you read first is your favourite. So people have really mixed views on this. I read The Song of Achilles first and it is my favourite. So if you've read both, please tell me whether your favourite is the one that you read first. I think it's quite an interesting theory, and it just suggests that you fall in love with the writing styles. I absolutely love this book too though. This is a 4.5. That's a 5 in my head. It also depends on what you like, because that one is more about ancient Greek heroes and it's much more human based, whereas this one's much more about the gods and goddesses, so it's a bit more of a fantasy book. Circe is this kind of witch slash goddess, and in the Odyssey film she is played by Samantha Morton, who I see as being such a good Circe. Circe is the son of the god Helios, who is the god of the sun. I don't know if you've heard the ancient Greek myth of the chariot going across the sky. That's Helios, and a nymph. She's basically not very well liked by her family because unlike the other nymphs, she doesn't have this dazzling beauty and she doesn't have immense power, and she lives this quite sad, isolated childhood. But although they think that she doesn't have strong power, she does have this dark witchcraft power of her own. She ends up being exiled or banished for this witchcraft. They think that the exile is a punishment, but she sees it as such a refuge. It's described as the inextinguishable song of a woman's burning hot and bright in the darkness of a man's world. These books are both amazing, and if you haven't read them, you really should. The next book I wanted to recommend is Ariadne by Jennifer Saint, and Ariadne is the daughter of King Minos. I feel like everyone's heard of the Minotaur. I think it has the head of a bull and the body of a man, and it's the one that was in the labyrinth. So this book basically tells that famous story, but from the perspective of Ariadne. I don't think I made it at all clear enough, but Ariadne is the sister of the Minotaur, and Ariadne's life is completely upended when Theseus arrives in Crete, promising to slay the Minotaur. Ariadne faces a very big, complicated dilemma when Theseus asks her to help him slay the Minotaur, her brother. Saint's project as a classicist and a writer is to give stories to the women who are often just footnotes to the men's stories in Greek mythology. And a big theme of this book is the cost of being a woman near powerful men. She talks about the entitlement of male heroes and also the entitlement of the gods, and how it's women who absorb the consequences. I also really liked the debate that ran throughout about fate versus agency. There's an ongoing question as to how much choice Ariadne has, or whether her life is just completely scripted by prophecy. I really enjoyed it. I found it a really compelling story. And then the final book that I wanted to put on this list was one that I read recently, and that is Andromeda by E.S. McLeod. This is similar to Ariadne in the sense that it is about very famous characters told from the perspective of the people that are typically peripherals. This, however, is not set in Greece for most of it. It's set in ancient Ethiopia, around the River Nile. I spoke about this book in a couple of my videos, in my June wrap up and my week of reading when I was on holiday, so I'm not going to bore you too much by banging on about it again, but essentially Andromeda is extremely beautiful, and in boasting about her beauty, her mom annoys Poseidon, which results in an ultimatum given where if Andromeda is the most beautiful person in the world, she will end up marrying Poseidon, and if not, he'll kill her mum. And the judge of her beauty is Ceto, who is half sea monster, half nymph, who has a binding oath to serve Poseidon. And it's basically an enemies to lovers story about Andromeda and Ceto. These two weren't the same hit me like a train, incredible, oh my goodness, I'm bawling my eyes out, or this is the best book I've ever read, as Circe and Song of Achilles, but I do think that they're really good retellings, and I did thoroughly enjoy them both. Those are the 5 books that I wanted to recommend. If you're going to see the Odyssey, then I hope you have a great time. And if you read any of these books, then I hope you enjoy them. I think it's fun that these ancient Greek epics are having a bit of a moment, because I think for too long the Roman Empire has got the spotlight, and in my opinion, ancient Greek gods and goddesses and a lot of that history is just as interesting, if not more interesting. Thanks so much for watching.